Okay, so today what we're going to do is Section 3, solving multi-step equations. So we've already done one-step equations, and then we moved on to two-step equations where we had to get rid of the addition or subtraction first, then the multiplication and division. When you're solving multi-step equations, there's some steps that you should follow. And the first one is to clear the equation of fractions and decimals. The second one is use the distributive property, combine like terms on each side, use the addition or subtraction property, and then use the multiplication or division. So this right here is your two-step. These ones up here is what makes it the multi-step. We have multi-step problems to do here. And I'm going to be honest, are you always going to use all of these steps? No. Okay. So first of all, this first part is just going to focus on combining like terms on each side of the equation and then solving it. So remember, like terms, they have to have the same variable. So if I look at this first example here, here are my like terms. Okay. That is what I'm going to combine together. So I have 3x minus 4x. And when I combine those, I get negative 1x plus 6 equals negative 2. And so with this, you can see now this is just a two-step equation. Here's my term with my variable in it, which I want to leave alone for right now. So I'm going to start by subtracting 6 on both sides. Now I have this negative 1x is equal to negative 8. And so now with this, you get to remember, think of this as divide by negative 1 or multiply by negative 1. So divide by negative 1, divide by negative 1. X is equal to negative 8 divided by negative 1 is 8. I could go back and plug that back into my equation. What this ends up being is 24 minus 4 times 8 is 32 plus 6. And when you add those all together, you should end up with negative 2, which you would. So if I look at the next example next to that, here are my like terms. Again, they're right next to one another, so this is going to be kind of easy. So what I have here is 4m minus 2m, and that equals 2m plus 1 equals 7. Again, I'm down to my two-step equation, so I'm going to subtract 1 from both sides. I have 2m left over here, and then 7 minus 1 is 6. And then to get rid of this, I'm going to divide by 2. So what I'm going to have here is m is equal to 3. Whoops, sorry about that. And so with that now, I can substitute that back in. 7 is equal to, well, 4 times 3 is 12. 2 times 3 is 6 plus 1, which 12 minus 6 is 6 plus 1 gives you your 7. If you look at part B, you're going to notice that your like terms are not next to one another now. So you have this negative 2y and you have this positive 5y. Remember, the sign in front goes with it. So I can take the time and rewrite this as negative 2y plus 5y plus 5 equals 14. Or if you can just automatically see up in this step that that's what you have to combine, you can skip this step right here. But if you feel more comfortable doing this, it's the way to go. So here's my like terms. I have negative 2y plus 5y. If I combine those, negative 2 plus 5 is 3y, and then I have plus 5 equals 14. Again, I'm down to my two-step equation, so here I would subtract 5 on both sides. I'm left with 3y is equal to 9. Divide by 3 to get y is equal to 3. If I look at this example here, I'm going to highlight my like terms again. And if you have a highlighter, I would recommend doing this. So this is negative 3z plus 8 plus negative 2z equals negative 12. Again, I can rewrite this so it's negative 3z plus negative 2z plus 8 equals negative 12. And then you can see here are my like terms that I need to combine. Negative 3z plus negative 2z is going to be negative 5z plus 8 equals negative 12. I'm down to my two-step equation, so I'm going to get rid of my addition or subtraction first. So I'm going to subtract 8 on both sides. I'm left with negative 5z is equal to negative 20. Negative 12 minus 8 is negative 20. From there, I'm going to divide by my negative 5 to get z is equal to, well, negative 20 divided by 5 is a positive 4. So you have to combine your like terms on each side and then solve your two-step equation. So here's a problem solving. It says a carpenter is building a rectangular fence for a playground. One side of the playground is the wall of a building 70 feet wide. He plans to use 340 feet of fencing material. What is the length of the playground if the width is 70 feet? Okay, so basically what you have here is you have, I'm going to draw a picture. Here's my building, okay? And they're going to put a fence for a playground on one side of it. So if you think about your fence, it's really just going to be 3 sides. Okay, does everybody see that? So you have your 3 sides here because one side is going to be this building. Let me highlight it, and then that way you can kind of see. So it says to you, the wall of the building is 70 feet. So here's your 70, which also means that this is going to be 70 feet. What we don't know is the length over here. So what we want to do here is it says, what is the length of the playground if the width is 70 feet? So if you think about if I was to walk around this fence, I have L, which is my length, plus 70, plus this length over here. And for a total, it says right up here, he plans to use 340 feet of fencing. So if you look here, do I have some like terms to combine? And remember, when there's no number in front, it's like saying 1L. So if I have 1L plus 1L, that's 2L plus 70 equals 340. And so now to solve this, I'm going to subtract 70 on both sides. And I'm going to have 2L is equal to 270. I'm going to divide by 2 to get L equals 135. So what that tells me is, because now I need to go back and make sure I answer the question that's asking. It's asking what is the length of the playground. So the length of the playground is 135 feet. That is the length of your playground. So now it says solving equations with grouping symbols. So this is where the distributive property comes in. So if you look here, there's my distributive property. Remember, with distributive property, you have to multiply by each term. So this is like saying 3 times k plus 3 times 8 equals 21. Remember, multiply 3k plus 24 equals 21. And now we're just down to our two-step equation. Minus 24 on both sides. So I have 3k is equal to 21 minus 24 is negative 3. Divide by 3 on both sides. K is equal to negative 1. So you have to distribute first, and then you can solve it using your two-step equation. This next one is a little bit different because there's actually going to be a couple extra steps here. Because remember, if I was to go back up to the top real quick, we're basically right here on this one. So use the distributive property to remove parentheses and then combine like terms on each side. So if I go back down here, if you notice, I have this distributive property that I need to do first. Okay, so let's do that part. So it's going to be 15 equals If I do negative 3 times x, that's negative 3x. And then if I think of this as negative 3 times negative 1, remember how we can do that so we get rid of our double signs? So negative 3 times negative 1 is going to be a positive 3 plus 9. So now if you look on that side, do we have any like terms that we can combine together? And we do. We have these constants right here that we can combine together. 15 equals negative 3x, and this is a positive 3 plus 9, and a positive 3 plus 9 is going to give us a positive 12. Well, now look, are we back down to our two-step equation? So we're going to subtract 12 on both sides. So now I have 3 is equal to negative 3x. And then to solve for our x, we're going to divide by negative 3 here. So now we're going to have x is equal to, well, 3 divided by negative 3 is negative 1. And could I go back up to the top here and check this? I definitely could. So you have to remember, do distributive property first, then combine like terms, then undo your addition or subtraction, and then undo your multiplication or division. So I know not many people out there like fractions, so there is a way that you can clear fractions in order to get rid of them. Okay, so what you do when you have to clear fractions is if you have to look at your denominators. So we have a 4, a 2, and an 8. And the first step of this is to find their greatest common factor. So if you look at 4, 2, and 8, the greatest common factor over here is going to be 8. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take each one of these fractions and multiply by 8. So I'm going to do 8 times m over 4. I'm going to do 8 times m over 2. And I'm going to do 8 times 5 over 8. What this is going to do is it's going to get rid of my fractions. So if you look here, we can cross cancel. So I can make this a 1 and this a 2. So if I do that, I have 2 times m, which is 2m, plus. If I cross cancel here, 2 goes into 2 once. It goes into 8 4 times. So what I end up with here is 4 times m, which is the same thing as saying 4m, equals. I can cross cancel, oops, where did my red go? I can cross cancel these 8s because 8 goes into 8 once and it goes into it once there. So what I end up with here is 1 times 5, which is 5. So now if you notice, I don't have any more fractions. So now I can just solve this using my steps that I had before. I have some like terms on this side that I need to combine. So 2m plus 4m is 6m. And that equals, whoops, that equals 5. To solve for m, I'm going to divide by 6. So my m is going to equal 5, 6. Leave it that way. Don't change it to a decimal. Okay, just leave it as 5, 6. So if you look over here, you got to look at your denominators. If there's no denominator here, what do we need to assume that that is? Well, 26 is the same thing as 26 over 1. So we need to look, and we have a 3 and we have an 8. So 3 and 8, the greatest common factor is 24. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to multiply each of these by 24. So 24 times 2/3 x. I'm going to do 24 times 5/8 x. And I'm going to do 24 times 26. Because you have to multiply every single term there by 24. Okay? So, again, we're going to go through and we're going to cross cancel to make this easier to multiply. So, right here we can do 3 goes into 3 once, 3 goes into 24 8 times. The only difference is this time it's 8 times 2x, And so 8 times 2 is 16x minus 8 goes into 8 once. It goes into 24 3 times. So we're going to do 3 times 5, which is 15x, equals, well, if you were to think, if I would have left that 1 there, 1 goes into 1 once, and it goes into 24 times. So it's just going to be 24 times 26. So let me get my calculator. 24 times 26 is 624. So now we just need to look on this side. I have some like terms that I can combine. Well, 16x minus 15x is 1x equals 624, or this can just be written as x equals 624, because remember, we don't need that 1 out in front there. So again, to clear your fractions, you're going to multiply each term by the greatest common factor, and then that's going to clear your fractions, and you're going to solve it just like we did before. There's also a way, I mean, when you're using calculators, it's not as big of a deal when you have decimals, because it's easy to just plug it into your calculator and go. But there is a way that you can clear decimals as well. So if you look here, the first thing you want to do is look at your place values. So if you look, this one right here, this is tenths, hundredths, thousands, and then this one's tenths, hundredths, and tenths, hundredths. Well, in order to clear them, you need to take the one that is the furthest over. So what we're going to do is we're going to multiply everything by 1,000, because when we do that, it's going to get rid of our decimals. So I'm going to do 1,000 times 0.025x. I'm going to do 1,000 times 22.95. And I'm going to do 1,000 times 23.65. Sorry, I'm going over into that area. And remember, when you multiply, if I was to multiply by 1,000 here, okay, you move your decimal place over the number of zeros that you have. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move my decimal place over 1, 2, 3. So what this ends up becoming is 25x plus, if I move this over 1, 2, 3, that's actually going to be 22,950. So 22,950. And then over here, I'm going to move it 3 places, 1, 2, 3. So it's going to be 23,650, or 23,650. And now you have a two-step equation. You want to get your term, oops, where'd my highlighter go? Term with your variable by itself. So I'm going to start by subtracting 22,950 from both sides. I'm going to end up with 25x is equal to, if I subtract this over here, 0, 0, 16 minus 9 is 7, so it equals 700. Divide by 25, x is equal to 28. Okay, so again, a lot of people don't mind working with decimals because of the calculator, but if you wanted to clear them, that is how they are cleared. So if you look over here, this tenths place, tenths place, tenths place, and tenths place. So over here, we can just multiply each term by 10. And I'm just going to show that by multiplying each term by 10 up on the top. So 1.2 times 10 would actually be 12x. This would be 36, 3x, and 24, because on all of them, we're just moving the decimal place over one spot. Now we're going to ask ourselves, well, there's no distributive property here, but there is some like terms to combine. So we have 12x plus 3x, which is going to give us 15x minus 36 equals 24, because remember, the sign in front goes with it. We're going to add 36 to both sides to get 15x is equal to 60. divide by 15 to get x is equal to 4. So I know that I've given you a lot of information. All right, we will go through this. We'll take our time. We'll do what we need to. But remember, you can always refer back to this table right here and ask yourself these questions. Is there any decimals or fractions that I can clear? Well, if there is, that's what you should do first. Is there any distributive property that I need to do? Combine like terms on each side. Get rid of your addition or subtraction, and then your multiplication or division. So those are the questions you should ask yourself as you are going through.